You're listening to the God Life Culture Podcast, where faith
and what's trending collide. Welcome back to the latest episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. This is Eddie.
What's up, everyone? This is Miguel, and we are so excited that you are tuned in for another episode of the God Life Culture Podcast. We want to remind you to hit that subscribe button so you can be notified every time we drop a new episode. We're so thankful for all of our new listeners that are joining us on this podcast journey. Eddie, today is a great day, you say,
yes.
And it's a special episode because not only is it just a brand new episode, it's a brand new week, but we are celebrating our 100th episode of the God Life Culture Podcast.
Yes.
That is a whole lot of hours
that is.
Of conversation.
Yeah.
And it just feels great. How are you feeling?
I am, as always, I'm always feeling great. I mean, I can't be ungrateful with the days and the time that God allows me to just be here regardless every day. But it was funny. I think we're past 2,000 minutes of just talking on the pod, which is crazy. That's a lot of talking when you think about it. But also the journey that it's been really great. We've done many changes. We've kind of found our groove, our sound, our feel. And to be a couple of years in and doing that, 100 episodes, I think that's pretty cool. So I'm really excited about that.
I agree. I mean, I'm looking here at some of our episodes from season 3, and it starts season 3, episode 21. So from episode 21 till this point, it's about 1.8 days worth of
just listening. Yeah.
And that's still not counting. Our first season was definitely like 20 episodes.
Yep.
Season 2 was up there as well.
Yeah.
And season 3 was starting at episode 21.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of hours.
That is a lot of hours. That's a lot of talking. That's also is really more hours than what's actually like on record.
Yeah.
Because we do our prep before it. And talking and figuring out and the topics and the subjects, and then also the research that goes into it, especially when we have our guests.
The episodes that we record that we think we recorded and never actually recorded.
That's true. That has happened before.
Yeah.
So it's all great things. And really, at the end of the day, it's a blessing and an honor to just still be able to do this. So I can't complain, especially with the guests that we have today.
Yes.
I mean, really, come on. It's going to be a great 100th episode.
Yeah, and I think it was perfect timing in the sense of, us reaching this point now and everything that's happening, in the lives of our guests that are here today. And let me tell you, it's going to be a great conversation. So thank you, first of all, to all of our listeners and those of you who have supported us along the way and listened to these last 100 episodes. Thank you. And we pray that you're blessed by today's episode as well. So we want to welcome back, right, to the God Life Culture Podcast. This is our... how do you say it? Our most, the guest that has been on the most.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's true.
And she was on at the beginning of this year.
Yep.
She was on in the summer.
Yep.
And she is back now towards the end of the year. Right? So just that alone is, that says a lot. That says a lot. And a lot has happened in her life and in her husband's life. So we have them both here today.
Yes.
Right? So this is an intro that, we have to give the proper credit and recognition. So we want you all to help us welcome to the God Life Culture Podcast, Latin Grammy nominated artist.
Yes.
I'll say that again. Latin Grammy nominated artist, AnaGrace. And she is not alone today. She is here with her husband.
Yes.
The man behind the lens, behind the visuals, behind her photography, behind her music videos, and Stark Media Creatives, Emmanuel Neris. Guys, thank you so much for being with us today. How are you feeling?
Yay! Oh, we're so excited to be here. That was such a great introduction. I feel so much greater. Oh my gosh.
And
in a way I want to meet myself.
And this is officially the first time that you got announced that way as a Latin Grammy.
Yeah.
Listen, that's how it's got to be.
That's how it is from now on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
That's very humbling.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, it's a great, it definitely, it's humbling, but also exciting because I think, people have their vision boards and the thing that they think of, especially as an artist, like certain things you want to achieve, like maybe one day make it to the Grammys, maybe one day do things like that. And even if it's not really at the top of your list, it's somewhere in there. So when things like that happen, you know, it is humbling but exciting as well, to just have that. Regardless, to have the experience, to have the honor, as people would say, of just even, you know, being nominated and considered. So Miguel did ask, you know, how are you feeling? But I mean, really, let's take a moment to dive into how you're really feeling. You know, the first time you were here, you were here as a special guest. We're talking about all your music, all the great stuff. Second time back, you are a special guest co-host. We were talking about everything else outside of your music. But today, now we're back talking about you. So how are you feeling today?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling very like still head in the clouds type of situation. It still feels so surreal. Like it feels like it didn't happen. Like it was all a dream that just came and went, or like a faint memories. I'm like, this didn't happen, but no, it really did. It's just a constant reminder of like the power of prayer and the importance of just kind of like taking the back seat and letting God kind of like be the one behind the steering wheel and directing everything. And it's been a real exciting journey. It's like even prayer time it's so different now, because it's like, you know, man, what are we going to do now? Like what are the next steps that we're going to take, which is so important, you know. Even if the whole nomination wouldn't have come through, like it's always got to be like with when it comes to like prayer time with God, and like just having that time with him, like being like, okay, what are we going to do now? Like, you're the one calling the shots. I'm the one who you're going to use. And what are we going to do now that we've entered into this new season, this new level, and this new platform? Like, so it's exciting, because you just don't know what's going to happen next. I mean, I know what's coming in 2022, and like, you know, but we'll talk about that later. But, but I mean, it's just the fact of like, you just never know what's going to happen now. And it's always going to be that way, as it should always be that way, you know, even when we reach the mountains and when we're in the valleys and stuff. So it's just exciting. It's a very exciting and like I said, humbling time right now. Yeah.
And I think even though you may have like your year planned out, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of secret blessings that God has sprinkled throughout the year that you're not even aware of, that'll just make the ride that more exciting. And, you know, Emmanuel is his first time on the pod on the mic, but I feel like you've been part of this all the other two times as well. Because I feel like you were in the background when we had Anna the first time. You were here in person the second time, but now you're with us officially on the mic. Is this the first time you're on a pod?
Yes.
Okay, so congratulations.
Yes.
Your podcast debut. Good for you.
That's it.
And although, you know, Anna's been on this journey, you've been with her from the beginning as well through all of this. So how are you feeling, not only just like seeing everything that she's going through, but also being part of the team and the experience?
It's incredible. Just even this moment right here is surreal, because like as I'm hearing her speak, I'm just having like flashbacks of like when we were dating, and like all those times that I would drive, because people don't realize or don't know, when we were dating, like she lived in Brooklyn, I lived in Long Island, so we lived like an hour apart, and she didn't have a car, so I was always driving over to her place. So just the fact that we're talking about like this whole Grammy nomination experience and all that stuff just brings me back to all those times I would have to like get out of work and then drive an hour to her place and bring my camera equipment, the little that I had at the time, and just make something out of nothing, you know, some promos that she needed done. And like I did whatever I could to just, you know, make her look the best that she could. And fast forward, like 5-6 years later, and we're here talking about this. So it's something I never pictured that would happen. It was always like, oh, that would be nice. And now we're here. So it's an awesome experience. I'm enjoying this so much.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you're both here. Like Eddie said, it's going to be great. But one thing, as you were talking and as you, Emmanuel, kept, you elaborated a little bit more on just like the journey, right? How this didn't start overnight. And this wasn't like, we started, 3 months ago, and it's very fast paced. And look, we made it. I'm at the grant, right? Like I remember, seeing you in your church years ago, at other churches. Like you didn't just start and this wasn't an overnight situation. So I remember my initial reaction. We're going to talk about your initial reaction because nobody wants to hear about my reaction. But my initial reaction when I saw that, it was like, you deserve that. You know what I mean? Seeing like your journey, seeing everything. I know what it is to go to different places and, you know, you having to take your guitar and relying on singers and musicians and all that. It's a lot, right? And a lot of times people don't see that. They don't see the seeds that are sown. They don't see the times you have a set list, then you have to change it all because it's just not working out. The times the sound goes out, the times you go to a church and it's like not what you expected, right? All of those things. And even now on the level where you are at, you know, the goals that you wanted to reach that you may not have reached yet. You know, the projects you wanted to come out at a certain time, the songs you wanted to come out at a certain time, that never happened, right? But then here comes this moment where man is recognizing you, right? The industry is recognizing you, but it's like God is also letting you know, like, I see you. You know, I have seen you and what you've put in and the work you've put in, you know? So I want to ask you, this doesn't happen overnight. To get your music submitted to the Grammys isn't something that just happens and falls in your lap, right? What is the process like? Take us now, I want to say, in like the professional business industry terms, as much as you know, right? How does this happen? Do you submit your music to the Grammys? Is there voting? You know, I believe there are like rounds of voting. How does this work?
Yeah, so there is an academy within the Latin Grammys, and it's the same thing with the American Grammys, which is like, you know, the official one for the English speaking, and there's also some Spanish language categories there. But so for the Latin Grammys, like my label would take the material, and then they would just register it first. So it kind of has to go through this I guess you can call it like a pre-screening phase where it gets registered. And that probably happened in, like, I want to say August or September. It was like probably August or September when it was registered. And then you have to wait like a month to find out if it was nominated. And so that's where, like, if it gets registered, like, that's where you'll see, like, probably you saw like a post that I put up where it was like, thank you for your consideration.
Okay.
That's like the registering part. And then from there, it goes into...
now, you just register it, or you registered it and then was like, there's like an approval after that?
Well, you just register it, and then the Academy then votes in order for it to get nominated. So you just kind of sit back and are like, okay, well, it's in their hands, Lord. And so
right.
Once it gets... once there's a voting that's done in each and every single category, then they send out the list of those who were nominated, and then the same process from there. From the ones that are nominated, then the Academy votes again, and then you find out at the Grammys event itself. I know I had a couple of people that asked, like, do you know ahead of time if you're winning in your category? And the answer is no. Nope. You find out that same night. Wow. So everyone that was there, those were all genuine reactions upon finding out that they had won a Grammy, or, you know, whatever the case is. But no, we do not know ahead of time. So that would essentially kind of steal from the excitement. Yeah. The only thing you know ahead of time is if you're going to be performing. Okay. Right. Obviously, but not if you're going to win your category.
And the category title, the official title was?
So it was Best Spanish Christian Album of the Year.
Of the year.
Yeah.
Of the year. Nice. Now, once receiving the news that it was nominated, tell us, bring us to that experience. How did it happen? Where were you? And we want to hear kind of your reactions to that.
This is a great story because it in no way, shape, or form did it happen the way that I would have hoped that it would happen. Yeah. So I was on my way to Dallas because I was going to record my latest single, which was Paraíso. Mm-hmm. So for that trip, he wasn't. So I was going to go out there and I was going to record, it was like, I think a 1 or 2 day trip and then come back. So I'm on the plane and I'm sitting there by myself. I'm next to like this older couple and they're like dozing off or whatever. And we're sitting there and like, the plane hadn't taken off. And it was probably like an hour that I was sitting there. And it was because there was like a lot of like weather issues and stuff like that. It wasn't safe to fly. So we had to just kind of sit there and you normally, like, before you take off, like, they'll tell you, like, put your phone in airplane mode and stuff like that. So I was in airplane already, but I knew that day was the day that they were going to post on their website the list of the nominees. So I was just like, I guess I'll figure it. I guess I'll see it when I land and, see if I made the cut or not. And I dozed off. I fell asleep, and I woke up, and we were still sitting there. So I'm just like, man, you know what? We still have a couple minutes. They posted it already. I can tell, like, it was already an hour after the time that they said they would post. So I went on their website, went off airplane, and I quickly went on their website, and I saw, like, okay, the list of the 2021 nominees, and I'm like scrolling like through there, and I'm like trying to find my category, and it was like, I get to it, and I'm shocked because I see my name there. I see my album, my name, and then like my label, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, no. I'm like, my eyes are deceiving me. Rebuke you, Satan. So I like took a screenshot, and I sent it over to my manager, and I literally was like, just tell me that this is a list of 5 different people that did not make the cut. Like, tell me the worst. And then and he's like, where did you find that? And I'm like, I went on the website. And then he then sends me a message and like really emotional, and he's just like, congratulations, you got nominated. Wow. And I'm like, this can't be. So I remember I only had enough time to send the message. I believe I sent one to you, and I sent one to my mother. And that I posted a screenshot of the text that my mom sent me, where when I told her about it, and this was literally minutes before then just taking off. So I'm like literally that I had enough time to tell the 2 of them, and then the plane took off, and I'm just like, of course it's taking off now. And I'm like, I'm crying. It's instant tears that like just spewed from my eyes, and I had my mask on, so I'm just like the mask is just like inflating and deflating, like from me breathing heavy and like crying there. And like the poor couple next to me, I couldn't even yell it out, like they were sleeping, and I'm just like, if only everyone knew in here.
You have a Latin Grammy nominated artist on your plane.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I was just sobbing, because it was just, I had so many memories of like, different things that were spoken over my life and kind of just said to me, and the last thing that my mom texted me was, all glory goes to God. And like, it was just a constant reminder of like, this is so true. Like, I could not have done this on my own account, or like on my own strength, or by my own talent. Like, it was solely the grace of God that it was able to happen. So it was just such a surreal moment.
I think, looking back at it, I would be like, man, that's not how I wanted it to be in a way. But then I can also see God with his sense of humor, I guess, in a way, setting it up that way to allow you that time to just sit in it. Not to be around other people, not to be, doing other things, spending your time posting about it. It's just really sitting in the moment and really having those moments of going back and thinking and reflecting to really take you on that journey of appreciation. So if anything,
Yeah, and that's exactly what happened. It was like about, oh my gosh, it had to be like a maybe 2 or 3 hour flight. And that's exactly what happened. All that time, I'm just sitting there, and I'm like, I can't believe this is real. And I'm like looking at the photo, and I'm like, thank God I took a screenshot, because I was able to just keep looking at that. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, how did I end up on here? And and it was just incredible.
Now, Emmanuel, hearing this,
Yeah.
bring us into now your world, right?
Mine's simple.
Like, what was your reaction?
I was just at home watching TV. No, I was what was I doing? Oh, actually, I was finishing dropping you off at the airport. So I dropped off at the airport, and then, because what was it, LaGuardia? It was yeah, it was again like an hour away or whatever. So I was on my way back to head to the our church office, because we had a staff meeting. So I'm driving back, and then I get a call from her manager, Benji, and he's like, bro, are you, because I'm driving, whatever. He's like, bro, pull over. And I'm like, what? All right. I'm like, what's up? And so I pull over, and he's like, bro, we're going to Latin Grammys. I was like, what? So we're all freaking out on the phone and such. And, he was like, don't tell Grace. I want to tell her, because she's on the plane, and he's been trying to get in contact with her. Right. So then I go to the staff meeting, and then I tell all the pastors like the good news, but I said, don't text Grace, because Benji wants to let her know first. And then I just ignored my phone for the whole meeting. And then when I was done with the meeting, I checked my phone and she already texted me saying that she got the news. So now I felt bad. I'm like, oh no, like, did Benji tell her? Like, you know, what was going on? And turns out that she already got the news before, you know, Benji got because her being
scrolling,
her.
right?
Yeah. But everybody, like, it was just so cool. It was such an amazing experience. And yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was great.
I think, you know, the great thing about this year is you guys have had a lot of great experiences. One of the things which we were speaking about before was that you guys are celebrating your 3rd wedding anniversary.
Yeah, 3 years.
You guys went to Aruba.
Yeah.
Had a great time, I would expect, right? Listen, you were to Aruba.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking, you know, one of the things that we like to speak about is, you know, couples and their journey and all that other stuff. But on our last episode where we had Anna, we were speaking about like cafes. Like you like to go to cafes and do your little, go and like, take your picture of your coffee, of your drink and all that other stuff. So I want to ask Emmanuel, what coffee flavor would you use to describe this 3rd year of marriage?
I love that question.
That's a great question. Oh, man. Wow. I mean,
You can think about one too, Anna.
Absolutely.
the sad thing is that, like, all I know is caramel.
Listen, but you spit that. You spit that real good about how it's so sweet, like caramel. Like, listen, you go in.
Yeah, all I know is caramel, because normally, like, she is the coffee head. Like, she everything is coffee with her. So even when she asks me, what do you want to drink, I'm like, you pick. Like, you know, you'll know better than I do. I'm simple. I like stuff sweet, like a marriage.
Oh, there you go.
I love the taste of caramel and stuff. So I'll let her do the picking. Yeah, I'm not.
Okay, so in that case,
I'll pass that on.
He says caramel flavors, so this 3rd year is a caramel macchiato. That's what it is.
Nice.
So you know how macchiato is like it's like the milk or whatever, and then it's like the espresso, and like if anybody is like drinking straight espresso, you know that it's like kind of bitter. So like, you know, there's moments, of course, in a marriage, like there's for us within 3 years of like, you know, of being together and growing together and having these experiences together, like stuff like that. You're going to have your moments where it's like, oh, this is beautiful and it's rich and it's lovely. And then you're going to have your bitter moments of like, okay, we're going through it. Like we're in the thick of it right now. But when you stir it up a little bit, it tastes really, really good.
Yep.
Right. So and it's just a great experience altogether. So like, yeah, that's your favorite coffee drink anyway. Yeah. So
there you go. There you go. I mean, in talking about like things that you go through and all of that, you hear the news, right? And now it's like you have the date when the Grammys is happening, and there's a lot that needs to get done, I'm sure. So I'm sure your mind was like, okay, when is it? How are we getting there? When are we going? What's going to happen? What are you wearing? Right? It's like all of that. So now take us into the planning phase. What did it look like to prepare? Before even getting there, what did it look like to prepare to get there?
Yeah, so the first thing, of course, was like, the clothes. What are we going to wear? And just kind of
there is like a red carpet.
Yeah,
lots of pictures.
Just a red carpet, you know.
You know what I mean?
You know, all just major radio stations and like television stations just wanting your picture and like, you know, just to kind of put your outfit out there on Getty Images, you know. But but yeah, so it was like finding something. But like I feel like every little piece or component of this entire experience, it had to be so well thought out, because it was just like you're representing, at least for me, it was like I'm representing the Latin American Christian community of like the artists that prefer to dedicate their art and their craft to bringing glory to God's name and not so much me, which is, you know, essentially when you go to award shows, that's pretty much how it's made up of, you know, it's made up of honoring and recognizing people and what they've done. Now, granted, you'll have different secular artists give glory to God, and sometimes it's just habit, or sometimes it's just, you know, from okay, well, this is what I was taught growing up. You always thank your parents, you thank your spouse, you thank your God, like that sort of thing. But it's different when you're able to thank God from a place of knowing and understanding that my my accomplishments and my achievements, they're not my own to just receive all the glory. So it's kind of like a lot of the preparation also comes with that mindset of like, keeping God at the forefront with all the decisions and all the choices, even when it comes down to what you're going to wear. Because like I said, you want to make sure that you're representing, your category to the best of, of your ability. So there was that, like choosing your outfits and then getting your speech by faith, getting that prepared, and just kind of going over like even the little things like posing for when you're in front of the camera, or like if you're doing interviews and people are asking you questions like, what are you going to say, how are you going to say it, like you want to present yourself and represent like your label and like whoever you're with and associated with in the best possible way. So there was just a lot of like mental preparation, but also like the logistics and like the little things along the way of like the annoying little things like the hotels and like the traveling around and all that stuff. Right. I say it's tedious little things, but once you're in it, it's like, oh, this is exciting. So
yeah.
But it definitely was taking like a lot of preparation, and there was also other little stuff, but I guess it'll come up as we keep on talking.
You have posted the docu-series on the YouTube channel. Which is great because it gives us a little insight of all the stuff. Like we see you guys arriving, you getting your makeup done. You went to I forget the name of it, but it was like the guitar thing.
Taylor Guitar.
Yeah, Taylor Guitar, which I thought was really cool too. But you also like touched on an experience you had where someone from your church gave you like a little advice, a little something to do before going there. Can you give us the backstory and talk to us about that?
Yeah, I was actually just gonna mention that, so it's a good thing I held my tongue. So probably like I want to say a couple of weeks before I went to the Grammys, I was leading worship on a Wednesday night at our Bible study at church. And there was a woman in the crowd, and she comes up to me afterwards, and she's just like, Grace, while you were singing up there, the Lord put like certain words of advice and encouragement to share with you before you go out there to the Grammys and stuff like that. And so she says one of the things that the Lord was impressing on her heart was that for me to just be careful with getting starstruck. Because it's one thing to look at someone and, admire them and feel inspired. And it's another thing to want to be like that person and kind of just, okay, well, I want to do whatever it takes to get there. And it's not that there's anything wrong with wanting to go into new heights of achievements and accomplishments. There's nothing wrong with that. We want to go from glory to glory, to honor God and to further spread his name. So of course, absolutely. But with the right heart and with the right mindset. So she was just telling me like, be careful when you go out there. And then something that she told me to do was, she was like, just write down a couple of scriptures that you can keep in your clutch bag or wherever, or, just something that you can like occasionally throughout the night just glance at and remember the reason why you're there. And so I really took that to heart. And so I wrote down 4 scriptures. I wrote down, one of them was delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires of your heart. One of them was in Philippians, do not be anxious about anything, but with prayer and petition, present your requests to God. Another was to whom much is given, much is required. And then the last one was trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. That was my favorite Proverbs. And so I wrote those down and I kept them with me. And then it was so funny, like, this was probably like a couple of days before heading out to the Grammys. She follows up with me and she's like, because she's also on our worship team. She follows up with me and, am I ready and stuff like that? And I'm like, yeah, I'm ready. And I took your advice. I wrote the scriptures down. And she's like, oh, that's so great, Grace. The word says, delight yourself in the Lord and he'll give you the desires. And I'm like looking at her and I'm like, whoa, that's one of my verses. And she's like, yeah, oh my gosh. Like we start freaking out. And then she's like, later on, we just keep talking about it. And I'm telling her like, I'm so glad we did this, because it just feels like this is such a huge thing for me, and stuff. And she's like, yeah, Grace, the word also says that, to whom much is given, much is required. I'm not even kidding. And we just felt the presence of God so beautifully in that moment because it was one of those things of like the reassurance that I needed to hear of like, okay, this is, the Lord is with me. And these are the scriptures that I have to hang on to because it's going to keep me grounded and keep me reminding me of the fact that I need God in this and that this is not something I can do on my own. So that was a surreal thing.
Love that. I mean, I heard that. I watched the series and I think there's more right?
Yeah.
Like to come and whatever. But it was definitely, it was great to see that. And just to see, you know, if you haven't seen it, go check out her YouTube channel and you can find it there. But just to see you like interact with people when you got to Vegas and all of that, it was great. It was great. And again, I think you represented well, you know, which is something that I think you said earlier, and I think there's an even added pressure in the Latin Christian community, especially when you're a woman, right?
Yeah.
In these kind of circumstances and events where you could easily be like torn down based on what you're wearing, how you look, how you portray yourself, how you are in a picture with someone, you know?
Yeah.
But I think like you represented well. So I think that was amazing. So now take us, you're there. What events did you guys participate in? I mean, we saw a little bit of everything. So take us through some of the highlights of what you can think of just being there. This was in Vegas, right? First time in Vegas?
First time in Vegas, yeah, for sure, yeah.
That was fun. So we landed on a Wednesday, we landed on a Wednesday morning, and that afternoon we had to be at the Taylor Guitar Suite to film a acoustic rendition of me singing one of my songs. This was the first time that I was going to actually be singing one of my songs and playing to it. So I was super nervous because I'm like, listen, my songs are like, I don't think when I go to the studio, like, hey, how difficult is this going to be when you sing it live? I don't think about that. I just think about, well, I'm going to put my 110% best out there. Yeah. And when I'm in the studio, and then like when I do it live, then I'm just like, why did I do that?
What
why
song
did I just
was it
take
that
it
you sang?
a
Was it
note
Soleado?
down? Soleado, yeah.
There is a part in there that's like, but you killed it. You killed it. I mean, was that you? Did you record that?
No.
So now, question.
Yeah.
Because you're the one behind the camera usually most of the time.
Usually, yeah.
Was this trip where you like
this
a
trip
step back?
This trip I took a back seat and I was just by her side. Like I did some stuff with my phone just out of habit.
Right.
But outside of that, I was just by her side helping out as much as I could.
Nice.
You know, just being there.
Now, I mean, being in that, you know, the Taylor Suite, right, recording that. And I saw some of the images and stuff, their equipment, their videos.
Nice.
How was that for you, being that's like your field,
that was
right?
How
did that inspire you?
That was inspiring because like these people, like they came ready. You know, they had like 5 cameras set up and like and I know everything that they had, so easily it was well over. That's not me. Easily
it's me. I'm sorry.
It's
my wife.
It's all right.
It's the first episode.
Yeah.
But easily, I'm looking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's at least $30,000-$40,000 worth of equipment in here, and like it was just a lot. But still, I was just looking at her doing her thing. Like it's funny because I've seen, like, I'm home with her and I see her practice and all this stuff, and I know how she was at home. And this was the first time I'm watching her. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's nervous. Like she's in front of the cameras doing her thing, and I've been with, you know, I've known her for a long time. Yeah. And this is my first time seeing her like a nervous side of, you know, AnaGrace, and I'm like, what's going on? So they finished the first take, and I go to her, like I let it, because I know she's not gonna rock with the first take. So I'm like, okay, let's they're gonna do a second take. I'm gonna take a back seat. And then after the second take, I'm like, okay, something's not right. So I had to walk up to her and be like, yo, like, get it together now.
I was like, listen, sometimes
you're embarrassing me.
No.
But I was just like giving her like, you know, some pep talk, you know, just, you know, trying to encourage her to, like, you know, I know how you are at home and how you are on stage, like, you know, get that side out of you, which the third take she did totally fine.
And I think there's also being her husband, and as her husband, there's, you know her.
Right.
So whereas everyone else was probably floored, like, wow, you know the potential, you know what she's really feeling, you know the things that probably others can't pick up on. You know? So I think that's also an important dynamic to have, an important role where it's like, you know, they're all like really, you know, floored and shocked and surprised, and they love it, but I know that you can do the ABC. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's also contributes to growth.
Right. Yeah. Like while I was there, after the first take, in my mind immediately was like, okay, we are not leaving here until I know that if she looks back at this, she won't go, oh, you know, like, oh, why did I do that or stuff like that. So I was gonna let you rock as long as, you know, until we got to that point. Like, I think she'll be okay with this.
Yeah. But let me tell you, I heard that whatever clip it was. And we're waiting for the full clip. So
yeah. I was terrified, but it was so surreal because first of all, I was playing such a beautiful Taylor. It was such a nice guitar, and yeah, it was so fun. And then of course they surprised me at the end. So
yes.
With what?
Wow.
Tell us.
Our listeners may not know.
I know.
Yeah. So first they were like showing me their guitars, and then like I had requested a grand concert guitar. It's just a particular size and body and stuff. I love the sound or whatever. So I'm telling I tell someone else like, hey, listen, I really loved it. At the end of it, I'm like, this beautiful guitar, and then Emmanuel and my stylist, they're Adriana. They're both like, oh, so which one do we get to take home? You know, like jokingly or whatever. And the host that was there that you know was giving us a whole rundown of everything. He's like, oh, hey, come on over to the back and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, whatever. I didn't think that they were going to do like. I didn't think they were going to do what they did because it wasn't like a Guitar Center shop, you know, where you see guitars hanging everywhere where they could just grab one off the wall. Here, this one's yours, you know? So he takes me to like this room where they have like a pool table, and on there they have like one of their newer guitars. It's a Taylor Mini Koa, and it's beautiful. It's a gorgeous guitar. Lovely brown color, and he's like talking to me about it, and he is like, yeah, the wood it's from Hawaii, and it's like all this extra beautiful fun facts, and I'm just like looking at the guitar like, oh, dreamy. And then he hands it to me, and like he's like, here, try it out, and I'm like trying him, like it's gorgeous, and then I go to give it back to him, and that's when he's like, no, it's yours, and I'm like, what? like, is it really this GS Mini Koa is mine? And he's like, yeah, it's yours, and I lost it at that point. I was just like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and I think those are also like those God moments along the way,
yeah.
letting you know, like, listen, this is where you're supposed to be. You know, this is this right here, this moment. So take us. Was there like a dinner? Was there like take us to the moment when everything goes down?
Yeah, so after the guitar suite, we ran over to the YouTube suite, so we were able to kind of meet some other people who work in that industry, and they were like kind of giving us the 411 on like the logistics of reels and using their YouTube shorts and stuff like that. And the connection between them all, and how it's like really beneficial to use like their YouTube platform, not just for posting videos, but like, other stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. And then right after that, then we were able to have a little bit of downtime. And then we went out to dinner right there in our hotel. And it was a really nice celebration and like gratitude sort of dinner. So I was given my medallion that night, which was so beautiful. It was a beautiful medallion that all of the nominees got. So I was given that, and then everyone else on the team. It was so nice to have two of my producers who worked on Hora Dorada. The two of them were there with their wives, and one of our good friends, Bob, who did the mastering and for my album, he was also there. It was my first time meeting him, so it was just such a nice experience to have everyone who played a part in making the album come to life being honored together. And it was beautiful. Of course, my manager was there and his wife was there, and like we were able to just kind of like talk up together and like share how we started, and like just to see where we are right now. So it was just a moment of appreciation. So it was a dinner that to just honor everyone before having found out anything in regards to like winning the category and all that. So that was really special for all of us to share together.
Mind you, at that point, by the end of the night, her feet were shot.
Oh yeah,
her feet were done.
I'm not a heels person like all the time. Like I prefer to wear like sneakers or whatever. But
the struggle to even walk into the dinner was bad. Yeah. She's like,
yikes.
But it is part of those are part of the logistics, like Anna was saying, that are annoying, but they kind of like come with the territory, and really in the moment. It's kind of like you push through it because it's like, all right, it's just part of the moment. But then, once you're at the kitchen table, the dinner table, you kick them off.
Right off.
Right off and just enjoy the moment. Now,
in all of this, do you actually get to sit and watch the Grammys? Like, once you're there, do you have a ticket to just, be there and watch the whole show?
Yeah, so I did get a ticket for the award show. Like there was 2 separate shows, I guess you can say. One of them was the pre-show, which is where my category was announced, along with several other categories, and then was the red carpet, and then it was like the televised Grammys.
Okay.
And so that my category, like I said, was in the pre-show.
Right.
So we did that, and then after that, then we were kind of able to just chill and sit back and like just
enjoy
sit in the
the
audience and watch. Yeah. So we had great seats. We were right there on the floor, and like we were able to see everything, and it was so interesting to see what goes on during commercials when everybody's watching commercials, like what's actually happening. So like they'll be rotating people.
That's
so
the
that
stuff I love to see. So like if I
Oh,
was
yeah.
there, I would have been like at all the behind the scenes.
That's all I was looking at. I was seeing everybody on the cranes and like the different equipment that they were using, and just how everything was just so to the T. Like it has to be. It's televised. Anything live has to be like on. But every second counts. And what's interesting to know is when you're watching award shows is if you ever see like whoever's in front of the camera, they're speaking to the camera and presenting or whatever, if they're in different locations, it's for a reason. So if you see like somebody's talking in the crowd and they're talking to the camera, that means something on stage is like changing or whatever. If they're on a different side of the stage, wherever's not on camera, there's like 30-40 people moving sets around to just keep everything moving. So it was just amazing to see everything happen. And then it was interesting because like while we were in the crowd, I guess it was the producer, like one of the producers, like when there's a performance going on, you'll see a producer like running in between and telling all the audience members like, stand up, be energized. Or if it's a slow song, pull out your phone and wave it side to side or whatever, trying to create a moment.
Yeah, they're producing a show at the end of the day.
Yeah, they're producing a show. So you do your best to participate and help them out. Sometimes it happens organically, but other times if it's not happening, they'll come out and say, get up or we're going to kick you. Oh, no.
No, or just when they're coming out of commercials and they'll count down like, and they'll 3, 2, 1, aplauso, and everyone just starts clapping really loud. And that was cool because I'm like, oh, so this is what it's like, when the commercial's over and it's like, oh, like they just picked up right where they left off. But it was so cool though.
Or even when they have fillers too, they have people who fill in the seats. So if somebody, so if somebody goes up that's like supposed to be in the crowd, but they have to like present or whatever, their seat is empty, but to compensate for that, they have somebody come in just to sit there.
I so badly wanted
to
be a filler.
Like, how do I sign up for that?
Yes. I'll wait outside, just let me know when to come in.
Because you wind up sitting next to somebody that, Bad Bunny or something.
You end up sitting right next to Camilo.
Like, here's my card. Just letting you know. But that's great. I think the experience compares nothing to anything that I've been in. Because, like I went to high school in the city. So it was like after school, we'd go to like the Maury show, or we'll go like to the thing with this dude with the videos, 106 in Park, and then the one on MTV, like stuff like that or whatever. So you kind of see a little bit of it, but not on the scale of like a Latin Grammys or anything like that.
Gosh,
and then like you brought up the seat fillers thing, and I was like, I've always heard of that. Like the people, because if somebody has to go up perform, they'll shift a couple people around, but they don't want empty seats.
Right.
So they'll have people that you're just supposed to sit there for the performance.
Yeah.
I'm like, definitely sign me up for that. I would do that.
Especially like there's some of the performers that had like bands that was like
a bunch of them.
20, like 20, 15 people or like 30 people. It's like that. You need fillers for that. Otherwise, you just see a blanket.
Yeah.
One of the things that, and I keep harking back to our other episode, that was like a moment of conversation, not only for us, but also for our listeners, and people have commented on it as well, was when we got into the subject of friendship by proximity. That was something that really struck a chord with people. And when we spoke about it the last time, we spoke about friendship by proximity, but it was really like location, like physical.
Right.
Like, you're no longer in the same church, you're no longer in the same hood or whatever. But I was actually speaking to a friend of mine earlier this week where the idea of friendship by proximity due to success is a whole different thing. Which is like, you can still be in the same vicinity as these people, but when you start to glow up or you start to go through a new chapter in your life at a faster pace than maybe other people around you, some people's egos get in their way. And it's not even you. It's the people around you where they feel a certain type of way because, Fulana is now at the Latin Grammys, or whatever. And they feel weird about it because they're not at the Latin Grammys, even though they don't even make music. It's just that thing where people just get in their egos about stuff. So what advice would you give to someone who is going through a glow up season? They're having an awesome time. God is really like bringing them to new heights, that kind of are feeling that vibe from the people around them who are maybe feeling a certain type of way, that their pace isn't at the same pace as theirs is. Wow, and I throw that at both of you.
That's a loaded one. I mean, I know for me personally, what I would probably, I think the advice that I'd give to the person who's experiencing that is like, at the end of the day, you know who you're doing it for, whatever you're doing. And you know what your intentions are. And at the same time, you have to also be sensitive to those around you. I know that that's something that I try to like pep talking to myself, like, you know, hey, even though you're getting to this place, you never burn your bridges with other people, and you never just cut people off, because success can come overnight and it can leave overnight as well. And then at the end of the day, if you have to end up right where you started, and it requires you going right back to the ones who kind of like catapulted and helped you in the very beginning, then I mean, I'd rather do that with my head up high than having to do it in shame and like, you know, and you know what I mean? So I feel like it's maintaining your humility in that, and then for those who essentially are like the haters, of, you know, it's not to say that now, you know, oh, if that's how you've been feeling towards someone, that now you have to like, you know, okay, I have to completely remove myself from this person's, you know, circle because of the way that I'm thinking. No, as an artist, support is always needed, and it's always going to be helpful for an artist. So I feel like when that happens, if that's you and you're feeling like that towards someone who's excelling, you know, you might have to you're definitely gonna have to do a heart check and see as to like, why is this offending you? Is it an envy thing? Is it a jealousy thing? And if so, then even if that person is excelling, and even if they're doing, you know, whatever they've got to do, if it's affecting you in that way personally, then that's something you have to check within yourself. Because they could very well just be oblivious to, you know, and not even think that they're offending anyone. But if you're getting offended yourself, then you might have to check within yourself, like, where is your heart at?
Absolutely. You want to add anything to that?
No, I agree. Nah, she got it.
Yeah, I think it is true, and I think that, you know, you as the person on the glow up journey, as I like to call it, you know, you'll sometimes pick up on that, and then, you know, depending on those relationships, you decide how to navigate them. Sometimes a conversation is necessary. Be like, hey, I've noticed that you've been acting a little funny lately. Is everything okay? And then other times, you know, then it's just you maybe need a little space. And you need to be okay with the space, and to navigate that as well, because it happens. It happens. It happens consciously through people, and then people do it without even realizing that that's what they're doing. You know, and I think Miguel and I have spoken about this on the pod and even outside the pod, where, you know, we have our petitions, we have our things that, you know, we want to happen in our lives, but we've made the conscious agreement that if you get, let's say we're praying about the same thing, but you get it first, I will make the conscious effort to be super excited for him because he's my friend. So I'm not going to be like, oh, Lord, why did you give it to Miguel first? And I'm over here waiting. You know, and sometimes you need to have those conversations and be like, listen, because I also wouldn't want to put him in a position where he can't tell me of his success and vice versa, where we can't share our successes because the other person hasn't gotten it yet. So it's really about having those open dialogues and conversations to be supportive with one another. And then if I felt he was acting funny, I'd be like, dude, what's good? What's happening? And he would do the same as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, in this beautiful place that you guys find yourselves in, with this success, with the recognition, being able to be at the Grammys in Vegas, a different environment, around different people that you probably wouldn't normally be around. How does this inspire you? Where do you go from here? Because I think for some individuals, this is like, you made it, you know? And I feel like in hearing you talk in your conversation, there's way more that's in store, and this is only a glimpse. And I think that sometimes God puts you in certain places and in certain rooms and around certain people, and it's like he lets you enjoy it and he lets you be there, but it's like you didn't experience everything, but you got the glimpse. And it's almost like there's way more I have for you, there's way more I have in store, and I just gave you a taste of what's to come. So how did all of this inspire you? And I want to hear from both of you.
Yeah, so I mean, for me personally, I've been inspired heavily as a songwriter. It was so John Mayer was one time asked in an interview, Like he was asked, well, how do you plan on I guess, how do you beat the album that you just put out? At that time, he had put out an album called Continuum, and it was a great album, lots of really great songs on there. And someone had asked, like, how do you plan on beating this album? And his response was just so, like, it was so beautifully said. It was so simple, and all he said was, like, I can never beat that album. All I can do is put out the next one. And I feel like for me, it's kind of easy to fall into that trap of like, wow, Hora Dorada was nominated for a Latin Grammy. How on earth am I going to put something else out that's even going to come close to that prestige? Like, you know, it's there's nothing that I'm going to be able to do about it. But when I heard that and just the fact of knowing that this is just the beginning, I mean, I've only been professionally as a recording artist, I've only been doing this for about 5-6 years. And so I'm like, man, if this is the beginning, then it's only up from here. It's not really like you. I mean, if I do plummet, then I can't blame anyone but myself for that, because at this point it's you really do have to grind and like continue to put stuff out there. But I know that in the season that I'm in right now, the Lord's been really working on me as a songwriter, because it's so easy to write songs that are going to hit musically and rhythmically, and like you hear it and you're just like, oh yeah, I'll blast this in my car. But I'm in a season right now where it's like, okay, well, what about those songs when someone is like completely distraught and they don't have any words and you have to say their words, and like they have to sit down and listen to your stuff? What is it that they're going to hear? Are they going to hear something that's just going to come in one ear out the other, or is it going to literally land somewhere in their heart where there was a deep need? And if it does, like, how is it going to build them up? What is going to be their next steps? So it's really profound season, because I'm understanding, just as a lot of singer-songwriters know and understand, that there's so much power in music. And, you know, you can hear a chord and it can make you feel a certain emotion. So if chords can do that, you can imagine words, you know what I mean? And there's so much power in our words. So as far as like right now, I feel even more of a responsibility to put music out that is intentional, that is targeted, and that is really going to bring glory to God and healing to hearts, however which way that looks like, because we all in some way, shape, or form need some sort of healing. So it's another level of artistry, and I really appreciated the fact that going out to the Grammys and that experience is kind of bringing that out, and it's very exciting, because I don't know what's in store for me in that sense, but all I do know is that, you know, I know who I serve, and I know that He is limitless, you know. So it's just a very exciting experience.
Yeah. So with the idea of, you know, how do you top your latest album, like the way I could look at that is like with the music videos that like we've done for you, is like I always had that pressure in my mind of like how do we top what we did before, but every project is like different, you know, like unless if the intention for the music videos is to tie into each other, they have to be its own thing. So I try not to look back at what was done, but focus on the now and like what's to come. Like, all right, this is a new project, a new song, you know, what new ideas can we come up with, you know? Yeah, we'll use some stuff from the older stuff, but like techniques and stuff, but like just try to come up with a new idea. But after this, like this whole experience, like it was very inspirational, and like and like to me it's like you can never be too famous. Like there's always somebody that's not gonna know who you are, or heard or seen what you've done, or know your accolades and stuff like that. So there's always an audience to touch and to reach. So reaching this level just means that we just have a lot more work to do. Like this doesn't mean like, hey, we made it to the Latin Grammys, okay, like we're gonna hang it up, you know, and take on a different career entirely, you know. So yeah, it's just a fun experience, and it's just nice to know that, like, you know, again, like I remember you said it, like if we can make it, if you can make it, and like anybody can make it if you put your heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
And be nice. You know, like
just
you know,
be nice.
Just be nice and supportive.
Good
like
merch.
you know, like you said with the proximity effect. Like you know, because I've gone through that too. Like you know, I've had goals, and me and my other friends would have goals, and they may succeed more than I do, and you know, I can easily fall into the trap of like, oh, but I'm doing all this work and all stuff, but so are they, you know, and everybody has their own pace and stuff. Just be supportive and practice that act of being nice and saying the nice words and being supportive, because it'll come back. And it's nice, and it feels nice to be that way instead of feeding your mind into that nastiness of just being jealous and hateful and all that stuff. It's a big waste of time, you know.
For sure. I mean, we want to thank you guys for coming on, for sharing, being transparent, but also like those tips and advice and encouragement, because I think, you know, again, we see one thing. We see, you know, the success. We see the music videos. Yeah. But sometimes you don't see the heart behind it at times. And so you have these conversations, you know, where people could have these false narratives in their mind and false perceptions of who you are and why you do what you do. And, you know, look at him, you know, doing this type of video. I think we were talking about the Alice in Wonderland themed video for Conversaciones, was it?
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, what type of like witchcraft is that? Or so, you know what I mean? Like people can go crazy. And I think once you start diving into like comments and people's opinions and all of that, it can definitely like sidetrack you, you know? Yeah. So I think when you share your heart and you're vulnerable in this way, and people can definitely feel and see the authenticity and how, you know, like you say, just be nice, right? Yeah. That whole vibe and idea, it shines through everything that you do, you know, and even as you speak. So thank you guys, you know, for being here, for sharing. And just remind us again, your socials, where can we follow you guys, all of that.
Yeah, so all of mine is AnaGrace Oficial. So it's 1 N, AnaGrace, and then 1 F, Oficial. So it's all the same. And you can find my music on Spotify, on iTunes, any digital platforms. And it's the same all across all of my accounts. And go check out my latest single, which is Paraíso. That's it's a really fun song, has a different vibe, and it's something to kind of like look forward to in what our next upcoming projects are going to be. So thanks so much.
Yeah. And for me, hold up, let me get
ready.
Right. For me, no, I got multiple platforms that I've been working hard on, but I got my personal channel, Neris. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, as well as my gaming channel, G-Rube Gaming, on Instagram and YouTube, and my photography and video production business, Stark Media Creatives. You can find that on Instagram. Yeah.
Awesome. So thank you for sharing that with us. Also for Paraíso, check it out. Paraíso in English is paradise, and the music is English and Spanish anyways. Yeah. So if you're not a native Spanish speaker, still check the music out. She goes in and out, and you'll catch the vibe, and it's really, really good.
Yeah, awesome. So definitely be sure to support, stream, follow, do all of the things that we should be doing, and stay tuned to all that's next, because it's only up from here for you guys. Right. And we're here for the ride. We're here for the journey. Yeah. You know, so we want to thank AnaGrace and Emmanuel for being with us today in celebrating our 100th episode. Yeah. And, you know, we have a lot more in store. So be sure to subscribe. We have some awesome guests coming up before the end of this year. And we're just excited to continue the conversation.
Yeah, so thank you once again for tuning in to the latest episode of the God Life Culture podcast. That's God Life Culture. Until next time.
See ya.
Bye.